Welcome back to Milton Mo Junction, which will be the June update, or the second June update. So this one's going to be a little bit different. I won't have done much work on the layout, but the beginning part of it I'm just going to show you how I created trees. Graham from Lakeside just asked me to show him how I created my trees. This is not a how-to video, it's just how I do it. And obviously there's various different ways of doing it, but this is the way I prefer and the way I made mine. So first of all, you need the tree itself, which is made up from these sea foam, I think they're called sea foam bushes. So you need those. They come in all different shapes and sizes, and some of them need tidying up a bit. There's these little seed pods I tend to sort of pull out. It's not necessary because they tend to get covered up and look like thick branches, but I sometimes tidy them up. And you need the leaves. Now I've got Gauge Master leaves, light green, medium green and dark green. I tend not to use many of the light green ones. As you can see from the packets, they're mainly the medium, a few darker green, and these are all from Gauge Master. Their leaves, they are GM 156, 157 and 158. The other thing, I make my bushes with rubberized horsehair. I think it might be used in mattresses and things, but you can buy it, sheets of it, and I just pull it apart to the shape that I want, and it's quite sort of shapeable, and you can poke it around. The other thing you need is some sort of glue. I'm using a spray glue. It's made by UHU, and I think it's for doing things like sticking carpets down. There's a couple of pictures here, notices to doors, etc. And I also use some cheap hairspray. So for a lot of the scenery I spray it with cheap hairspray just to stick it and fix it in place. I also, for this job, I use some gloves, because when I did it before, the first time I did it, I spent the next half hour cleaning my fingers and getting rid of all the gluey leaves on them. And right, sorry about that interruption. Someone obviously realised I've got gloves on and wanted me to help with a bit of surgery. Yeah, as I was saying, so it just helps the cleaning of your fingers at the end of the day, because it gets a bit messy. I use a little box as well to mix them in. Right, so first off, I give the tree a good coating of glue. Then really it's just a simple matter of sprinkling these leaves over the top of it. And try and sort of shade it a bit, different areas, break off the bits you don't need. Any bits you've missed, have a quick examination. Anything you want an extra bit of work done on, just do them as individual sprays. And of course that's where the tray comes in. I made a bit of a mistake there actually. I sprayed over the tray, so it's clumped them together a bit, but there we go. That's an extra bit I actually need. So, yeah. So that is the tree. Next stage is a bit of good old hairspray. And now that effectively is ready for the layout. You can paint the stem if you want, the trunk, paint it a brown if you require, but it's already a woody colour anyway. And a lot of mine, well, the wood I've just made, I covered those up because I've had all brambles growing over it, so you couldn't actually see the tree trunk. So that's the tree. The bush, exactly the same. You just spray the whole bush. And again. I mean, you can actually leave the bottom untouched, but if you know the position it's going to sit, for instance, if it's going to sit like that, then you could probably leave the bottom untouched. But when I was building mine, I didn't actually know how I was going to lay the bushes, so I just covered the whole thing. And you end up with something like this. And you can always touch it up afterwards. So that's it. So from a distance, or with amongst other foliage and other scenery, it looks reasonably realistic as a bush. I sometimes add some coloured, I haven't brought it down with me, I'm in the conservatory at the moment, but I sometimes add little flowery bits to make it a bush in flower. There's some around the back there that needs a bit more work done, so we just add a bit more, perhaps add a bit of light around this bit. You just get to shade the bushes how you want. So that's about it really. You can shape it to a certain degree how you want, where you want to fit it, which is the beauty of this particular bush, and it comes to the shape that you want. And you can cut off these extra little bits with a pair of scissors, and that's pretty much the end of the demonstration. Just like to make a couple of points that I'd forgotten about. One is, the most important thing, is before you work on these trees, it's recommended that you soak them in warm water for 4 or 5 minutes. The longer you soak them, obviously the more the water soaks into them, and in some cases it may need longer for thicker stems, but it stops them being so brittle. They don't break all the time when you're trying to work with them and move them around a bit. They're not so brittle, they're more flexible. The other point is that you can straighten some of the ones which are bent. They're more pliable to straighten, and you can actually get them quite straight. This one itself was quite curved, and it's now just been working gently on it. It's now reasonably straight. You can apparently give them a good soaking and just hang them with a bit of a weight on them to stretch them and let them dry out before you work on them, and that will straighten them as well. But as I say, this wasn't too bad, but it's now reasonably straight just by gentle manipulations. So that's the main thing that I forgot to mention. The other thing is, which is not strictly speaking necessary, is I didn't spray this with hairspray, which I personally do. I'm not sure you need to, but I personally do spray it. And also on some of my bushes I've added this colour flock, which is Picocene flower field, and all that does is gives it a bit of colour as if there's some flowers on it. Now I don't sprinkle too many, I don't want it overbearing, but it just gives a bit of colour to the bush. I don't do it on all of them, but some of the bushes I've sprinkled with the colour, and it just makes them look a bit different, so every bush is not the same. I'm not sure it comes out that well on this video, but you can certainly see the different colours in when you look at it on the layout. So that's the two things that I forgot, and that's about it really. I'm now back up in the loft. I've completed my tidy up. It probably doesn't look a lot tidier, but everything's in the correct place, and boxes. Don't worry about the table, that's sort of a working table at the moment, so there's tools and bits and pieces out. But what I have done, I've sorted everything into drawers, and they're all different bits and pieces. And to make it sadder, I've made a list of diagram there of where the drawers are and what's in each one. And the second little one is this little group of drawers here. So hopefully I can find things again. And as I said, this is going to be a bit of a mishmash of things, because obviously at the beginning of the video I've shown you how I make the trees, and as I said, now I'm in the loft, just showed you how I've sorted it a bit. And on the layout side, on the 00 gauge layout, I've just painted a roadway, waiting for that to dry. I'll sand it down a bit because it's a textured paint, and let that dry, as I say, and then I'll get on with the hillside. So that's about all I've done with the 00 gauge layout. The O gauge layout, I've done a bit more work on that. I've added an extra siding, and hopefully I'm going to put some sort of building down the end, so that where those two wagons are, they can back into part of the building, obviously the building the graph scene, and it gives a bit more scope for shunting. The other thing I've done, I've got some purchases. I've purchased four cars rather, two passenger vehicles to go on the roadway going up to where I've just shown the factory, and of course two commercial type vehicles, and they are to go by the goods yard. And the other thing of course I've done is I've changed the platform completely. I've made it thinner because I think the one I had there previously was too high for a German platform. They're very, very low, you can almost step up onto them. So it's a much thinner piece of wood, and the edging is now ceramic pieces that I've glued on there to make it look like concrete. There'll be a ramp at this end which will just gently go down to the roadway, but as I said before, you can almost step up onto a German platform. They're very, very low. And that's about it. I'll probably publish this video now because we don't want it to get too long. People get bored watching long videos, I think. So I'll close now with the usual. Please feel free to leave comments and subscribe if you wish. So bye for now.